Hey mamas, it's Mama Fox, and I wanted to come and just share with you some things that's been going on in my personal journey, both as just a Trim Healthy Mama and also in my personal journey as a Trim Healthy Mama coach and also a certified menopause fitness specialist coach over the past about 7 to 8 months. I've shared little bits and pieces here and there, especially lately, but I haven't really come out and just said some things that I have been thinking about, experiencing, trying, figuring out, learning about, all the things over the past few months. And I wanted to share that with y'all because you're part of my circle. You're part of my tribe. And I felt like, okay, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to share a little bit about what's been going on here. I'm just gonna be very blunt. It has been stressful for me. I don't know how everybody else has felt, but all of the things over the past few months, it was stressful. As a coach, as a health coach, to figure out what do I think? What do I think about all of the glp1 stuff? What do I think? Well, quite frankly, last October, I didn't even know what to think because I didn't even know what it was. Anybody else? I was like, I didn't know. When people were talking about collagen peptide therapy and glp1, I had no idea they meant Ozempic because it's the same stuff. I didn't know. I'd heard about the other one and some of the other, name brands and stuff, but I didn't realize it was the same thing. Anybody else? And so, when before October or so, October, November, I just kind of ignored it because I was like, okay, that doesn't have anything to do with me, and I'm not a doctor. I can't prescribe stuff, right? So, I can't prescribe bioidentical hormone therapy either. And so I know some stuff about it. I'm a certified menopause specialist, but I don't dig into all the different nuances of bioidentical hormone replacement therapy because that's a conversation you have got to have between you and your doctor that knows you. Okay, right? So what can I do as a health coach to help you in that way? Lots of stuff. I can do a lot. I know a lot of stuff and I've seen it, experienced it, helped mamas with that. And that was kind of what I was thinking about sort of with the GLP-1 and all that stuff. Okay. So that was my first thought was, well, I'm not a doctor. I can't prescribe it. And I don't even really understand what they're talking about back in these podcasts that I would listen to, like Dr. Mark Hyman, Sean Stevenson. He's spicy, but I love him, but he is spicy. Some other different health people, and they were interviewing and talking about Ozempic. That's usually what they would call it most of the time. And I was like, what in the world? I have no idea. So obviously, I knew some stuff. I just didn't know I knew some stuff, and I really kind of ignored it, to be honest. But then THM began talking about it, and we began learning that they would be having a program where people could, men and women could sign up to take a collagen peptide therapy, a GLP-1 agonist drug shot at home. I was like, what? Why are they doing that? I don't understand it. Can I just put my fingers in my ears and close my eyes and pretend like this is not happening? Because I don't want to learn about it. And I don't mean that, if you're on it, I don't mean that offensively. I was just like, what has this got to do with my personal journey, but also my health coaching? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? I can't prescribe it. This is a conversation between you and your doctor kind of thing. So I was kind of a little stressed. I was a lot stressed when I started realizing, oh, they're talking about the Ozempic-like drugs. I had no idea. That's how just in the head in the sand I was about the whole thing. I didn't understand that until about November, maybe late October. I really didn't. I even had a conversation with one of the THM admins at the coaching retreat who had been using one of these for a while. And she was talking about it, and she was calling, said it was collagen peptide therapy. I had no idea she was talking about the same things. I just didn't know. So, the first thing I needed to do personally for me was figure out, okay, what does that mean? What is collagen peptide therapy? What is GLP-1? What is this stuff? And so the first thing that I found out very easily, a little bit of digging, is that the drugs are, and I know we love to shorten everything, don't we? But the drugs are a GLP-1 agonist. Okay, so that's the first thing that kind of bugs me just a little, is that the drugs are called a GLP-1 agonist, and they mimic having a higher level of GLP-1 hormone. Okay, so then I was like, well, what does that mean, right? So our bodies naturally make the GLP-1 hormone. It is a hormone. It is made in the gut mostly, a little bit other places, but mostly in the gut. Our bodies naturally make GLP-1 hormone. Had y'all ever heard of GLP-1 hormone before about last October? Because I sure hadn't. I'd never heard of it. Or if I did, it just slid right past my eyeballs. You know what I mean? It just didn't stick. But now I have a much better understanding. I'm still learning for sure. And so basically what I've learned is that if you have, oh, that makes me feel better, Maria, because I was just like, what? I went through my entire menopause certification, and not one time did GLP-1 come up. I'm just going to say it. Now, does that mean that my certification was inadequate? I actually don't really think so. I really don't think so. But we did talk a lot about insulin resistance. And so that is what I have learned, is that if you are grappling with any amount of insulin resistance, and here's the thing about insulin resistance, you probably won't realize it at first. It's not like you feel like you have insulin resistance. You can't tell that you have insulin resistance or anything like that. But if you're grappling with any level of insulin resistance, then your GLP-1 hormone that's naturally made is going to be going down. And so when insulin resistance goes up, GLP-1 hormone goes down. That's unfortunately the way it goes, okay? And Coach Debbie is in the house, and she's an expert. So she's going to check me on some of this. You just correct me, because I'm still learning so much. So that was the first thing that I started beginning to understand. So I was like, okay, as a health coach who I desperately want to help mamas, my thing is about helping mamas get unstuck. I want to help mamas get unstuck, but stay unstuck. I want mamas to stay unstuck. I don't want mamas to take my 8-week course, for example, and then find themselves right back where they started, if not worse off, a year later. No way. No way. I would much rather somebody take my 8-week course and keep making progress and then become a coach like Selena and Susan, okay? I would much rather spawn coaches than have you stay, get unstuck, but then get restuck, okay? Much rather. So trying to work through all of that and figure out, well, how can I use this information and this direction THM is going in, but bring hope to mamas? Because I'm just being honest. This is me. I was starting to have struggles of my own, for sure, with things just not working the way. And, I turned 50 in January. And so, you know how that is. It's like every 4 or 5 years, it's like something else just switches on or off, right, in your body. And so I could tell as I was getting closer to 50, I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to change a little bit, going to change a little bit. So even for my own journey, figuring out, well, what does this mean? What do I need to do about it personally? But also as a health coach, well, what does this mean for the women that I do serve and that I hope to serve and that I want to help? And the more I learned about the new drug, and the more I listened and read and dug, I do think that for sure it's been around for about 20 years, but mostly used for diabetics, obviously. It was only in the past year that it was, or maybe like a hair over a little over a year ago, was it approved for weight loss specifically, besides diabetes and things. So it's still relatively new in that realm. My understanding at this point is that because it's just been approved within the past year for weight loss, there really aren't any long studies about the drug in regards to that. It's been around for about 20 years used on diabetics, and that, 20 years ain't that long. But, I'm sure there are some studies on diabetics with it, but they're not super, super long, but certainly longer than there would be for the weight loss part. So, I'm just a cautious person when it comes to medications and things like that. But I was listening and hearing, some people talk about the who it can help, who it is really good for. And I know even, it's on my husband's nightstand, as if he's reading it. Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, I've heard her talk about it. I love Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. I think she's got a lot of great stuff to bring to the table, and she's all about muscle and protein and all of that. And I love her book, and she doesn't really even talk about this in her book, but I have heard her talk about GLP-1 agonist use at her private practice and how she utilizes it. And it's a very, very specific situation. Definitely the markers for it are very severe, high. I'm not sure how to say that, and what she does with them. So I do think it has a place. So I'm not anti-drug. Lord, if I was anti-drug, half my family wouldn't be here, to be honest. I'm not anti-drug or anything like that. But I also know that in the mamas I serve a wide variety of mamas, but they have a lot in common. And in the mamas I serve, they're striving to learn what they can take control of and do to get healthier and to lose weight and to age well. That's who I speak to, and that's mostly who I serve. And some of them may not want to take a drug, possibly, or they want that to be a last resort, or with this particular one, maybe they can't get it, or maybe they're not a candidate because not everybody is a candidate, or maybe they can't afford it because this stuff costs some pennies, okay? It costs some dimes and nickels and some dollars. And so as I was learning about that and thinking, well, what if women start seeing other people taking it and losing a lot, and it's not that hard for them to lose a lot, but they're not able to get it because they can't get it, they can't afford it, they're not a candidate, they don't quite meet the criteria, or maybe they meet most of the criteria, but they're maybe a cancer survivor and they can't use it. I mean, all these things, I was like, well, that's not very hopeful for those people. I was like, that breaks my heart, honestly. It breaks my heart that there are a segment of people who aren't going to be able to use it, at least not right now with the price of it and things like that, or the availability or whatever. That really makes me sad because I've seen that in comments here and there where people feel hopeless to take control and agency over what they might be able to control and have great success. And I'm like, surely, I don't know, this is going to sound really naive, but the thought that ran through my head a lot was, surely the good Lord didn't make it this complicated. Like surely the good Lord didn't make it that this many or that many people need a weight loss drug to be healthy. I'm like, no way. Sure, some. Obviously, we live in a fallen world. We have broken bodies. They don't always work the way we want. Things like that. Absolutely. My husband is on a prescription hormone himself. Like I'm not against any of that for sure, but there's a lot of things we can do that I don't think we realize, because I didn't. Here I am, a THM veteran coach. I read and dig and all that, and I did not realize what I could do and what we could do to turn that ship around. I didn't realize it. And I know Debbie's here, and Debbie will tell you the same thing. Did not realize some simple little tweaks that we could make that literally reverses insulin resistance, or at least lowers it. Maybe you're not insulin resistant, but chances are you probably are, because gosh, the statistics on insulin resistance are astronomical. But lower insulin resistance naturally raise your GLP-1. And that's what I want to share with you today is that was the biggest thing I learned that brought me out of my feelings of stress and hopelessness and a little frustration back November, December, January. I was really struggling. I was really struggling with what am I supposed to do with this information as a health coach? How can I help people? Or can I? Is there anything I can do to help? And I really think that there are some things we can do. And I want to share those with you. I've already been sharing some, actually. But I really want you to lean into this. We can do stuff. We can reverse insulin resistance, first of all. Guys, you can reverse type 2 diabetes. I hope you know that. You can reverse type 2 diabetes, but you certainly can reverse insulin resistance and prediabetes. And when you do that, when you reverse those, you're going to naturally raise your GLP-1 hormone. That's just how it works, okay? And if you're not sure about the insulin resistant part, but you're interested in raising your GLP-1 hormone naturally, well, then that's going to impact your insulin resistance that you didn't know you had, but you had, okay? So that's what's exciting. And I will tell you, this is not a sales video. Like, I promise you, it is not a sales video. I have lots of things I want to share with you. I have a feeling this is part one of a multi-part live video series in the free group. But I want to tell you right now, I have to mention that if you are ready to get started, and if you're ready to really raise that GLP-1 hormone naturally, this is what you need. I'm serious. Like, you need this. It's less than $30, okay, on my website. This is practical. This is what you're going to do. Igniting your fullness focus and finding your food peace. I could have titled it, How to Naturally Raise Your GLP-1. I could have. And I did think about it. But at the end of the day, this little phrase right here, food peace, food noise, that phrase, that food noise phrase, that was the phrase that really kind of, I'm going to be honest, it got on my nerves. Can I say that? I guess I can. It's my group. That phrase got on my nerves last, late fall and winter. It did, okay? Because I was like, what? Food noise? What are you talking about? I mean, sure, I love to think about food, and I can't wait until my next meal, and I love thinking about what I'm going to eat next. And yeah, I blah, blah, blah. Well, that's food noise. But that phrase got on my nerves. It really did. But that was the number one phrase. That was the number one idea I kept seeing over and over again. With ladies talking about why they felt like they needed or wanted to take the GLP-1 agonist. I mean, they were stuck and couldn't lose weight, didn't know why, didn't know what to do about it, but they talked a whole lot about the food noise. And it was like, well, what is that? I don't know. I've never heard that phrase before either. It's like, before November? I don't think I'd ever heard that phrase before. So I started digging into a little bit of that, but that really came about as I implemented the things in this little cheap, I priced it cheap because I want y'all to get it and do it. As I implemented those things, and I know not everybody loves her. I'm not saying she's my hero, but as I implemented Glucose Goddess methods, starting, in January, February, And as I started digging more into insulin resistance and reread this gem, like I told y'all, I read this book years ago, and when I reread it recently, I was like, he said it all along, and I just wasn't ready for it, I guess. But as I started doing those things and I started implementing them very swiftly, I got rid of my food noise that I didn't even know I had, that I'd had my entire life, okay? Well, Janie, see, you're smarter than me, because I did not realize how much that food noise was holding me back and causing me to have systems in place and habits in place, and causing me to really, 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 willpower, right? Yes, I can do that. I will do that. I'll take a little picture. I'll take a picture of my favorite books. Of course, I'm still reading, but some good books. But I didn't realize, because here's what happened was, I would eat my Trim Healthy Mama breakfast the way I thought I needed to build it and eat it and all that kind of stuff. And then within an hour or two, I'm already hangry. I'm already thinking about, well, when can I eat lunch? Well, I can't eat for 3 to 4 hours. I was already thinking about that stuff, and it was kind of wrecking my whole mood and kind of wrecking my whole morning. But I'm a strong female, lead here, and I'm not gonna cave. I'm not gonna eat garbage. And I'm gonna try not to graze in between eating, kind of thing. But it was amazing when I started building my meals with a few tweaks. Okay? With a few, I'm gonna see if I can get it. Is that it? Yep. Just a few. With a few tweaks, the noise was gone. And so then I'm like, okay, I'm totally gonna make it to lunch. Like, I'm not gonna need a mid-morning snack. I'm not going to need that anymore. Like, I don't even care. I can go about my business. I'm not worried about it. I'm not thinking about it. And so I don't need a mid-morning snack. I'm not even tempted. Not even just a little handful of nuts. Nothing. I eat my lunch. Do I need an afternoon snack? Not anymore. Not most days. I don't. Because I'm building my meals to quiet my food noise. And I'm not having to constantly eat. Every time we eat, that's going to initiate an insulin response. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a problem unless you're insulin resistant or you're on your way or you're pre-diabetic. And then it's a problem, okay? And of course, for me, one of my biggest times that blows my mind now is my entire life. I could eat great breakfast, lunch, and supper, solid, healthy, full meals. But come about 8, 9 o'clock at night, I know all the tricks. You turn the lights out in the kitchen and you clean it up and you go put your jammies on and you brush your teeth and you get in the bed and you read your book. And I would just sit there thinking about food, sit there thinking about what I had in the kitchen that I could go and grab. And of course I would try to make, good choices, of course, but it's like logically, at 9 o'clock at night, after having supper at say 6 or so o'clock, 7 o'clock, I don't need any food. Nobody needs food. Well, a nursing mama, a pregnant mama might, but generally, mamas over 40 and beyond, certainly over 50 and beyond, we don't need food at night, okay? And the thing that bothered me about it personally was that I was completely preoccupied with thinking about it. Totally preoccupied and could not even focus on my little book, which is ridiculous. Okay. I mean, that's, I don't want anything to control me to that level, where I can't even put it out of my brain. So when I started making the tweaks that I talk about in that Food Peace series and really buckling in on those, which some are similar to the Glucose Goddess things. I still do the Glucose Goddess things as well when I have carbs and things like that. I can go on my merry way and I can, eat supper and I'm done. And the entire family, this is the thing that blows my mind. And my husband noticed it the other night. My entire family, we can sit down for a movie now and it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and I'm sipping a cup of hot tea and I'm fine. And that's what I recommend, but it ain't always easy to do, or it used to be really hard. I always recommend that for stuck mamas and things for we need to lighten up at night, okay? But it's hard to do it. I always had to battle with myself to do it. And, you know, in a pinch, I would make something like the Miracle Mousse Makeover, which I do love, and I'm still going to have that sometimes, absolutely. Because I'm not controlled the other way by never having something to have at night, for sure not. But now I don't have to. I don't care. Like if they all want to sit around and eat their popcorn and have their whatever, it doesn't bother me. And for me, that's huge. Now, some of y'all, you don't have food noise, especially at night. Some of y'all don't grapple with that. And so you're like, good grief, of course you shouldn't snack at night when you've already eaten. But I can tell you for me, it was a really hard struggle that I have struggled with my entire life now that I know what it was, okay? Now, why was that? Well, I was having all that food noise because my glp1 hormone was low. And when I started making tweaks just in the way I build my meals and do my stuff, it's going up, and I'm still doing it. I'm still in the process of that. I have lost 10 pounds in 3 months, which I think is pretty darn good. And it hasn't been hard. It's been simple. And I've been set free from having to think about food every time I turn around, because my brain is bombarded with thoughts about food and what to eat next, and a dessert, and this. Well, desserts don't tempt me too much, but it is amazing. And so that has been what's happened more recently. What I started doing, like I said, I was very stressed. I was really stressed about what it meant in my coaching with all of this. And what I finally realized back about, I think it hit me in about February, I started feeling hope for my own coaching and the mamas I serve. What I realized was if I was grappling with these things, and, you know, if I knew that like maybe I'm not a candidate for the drug, or if I wasn't going to take it, or I couldn't afford it anyway. We got 3 in college, like no way. I mean, whatever, that I wasn't the only one. Like there's other mamas that are like, yeah, I can't afford that, or yeah, I'm not a candidate, or yeah, I'm not ready to do that. I want to try other things. There's mamas just like me who need help and need to know, well, what can I do? Is there anything I can even do? Is taking the drug the only answer, the only way to raise GLP-1? I have no idea. The answer is no, it's not the only way. I'm sure that there are some who do need that help for different reasons, for various reasons, for sure. But for many of us, we can turn the ship around. And so that's what I started really thinking about, and that gave me hope back in February. And then, as I mentioned on a recent post, it was in March where I really, really got serious, like pulling all the pieces together and really getting serious about, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get serious about eating more lean protein. I'm going to get serious about these things. And that's when I really started to see some changes. Okay. So I know this is going long. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm probably going to do another video like in a week or two, because I still have more things I want to tell you. What I want to say to you is this. If you're insulin resistant of anywhere on that spectrum, your GLP-1 hormone is low. But both of those things can be reversed, okay? They really, really can be. And it's going to take a little bit of time, but it doesn't take as long as you might think. It really doesn't take as long as you might think. One of the things that I've gone back and listened to some podcast episodes of various sorts that I had previously heard. I just didn't know what I was hearing. Let me get a sip of water real quick. One of the things that I have articles about this over here. I've got podcast episodes about this. If you want to raise your GLP-1 hormone naturally, here's what you got to do. Increase your fiber with veggies and greens, but you got to chew them, okay? I'm so sorry. I got a little throat thing going on. Speaking of chewing, I was just re-listening to this podcast episode this morning. I probably listened to it 3 or 4 times. You've got to chew your veggies and greens, okay? And I talk about that in the food piece. We've all gotten so used to hacking our veggies and our greens and our blenders and our food processors. And there's a place for that, and I do talk about that in the series. There's a place for that. There is a time and place for that, for sure. And it's not like you can't ever do that. But when we chew, we stimulate the digestion process. And that digestion process, part of that is telling us, oh, hey, there's food coming, and we're going to eat some food, and then we're going to be full, right? It's signaling, it's a cascade of signals that happen with our digestion process. But when we are constantly hacking and blending away, we're changing the structure of the fiber way more than if we just chew it, okay? And I know that sounds, it's not like the fiber has disappeared. The fiber hasn't, it's not disappeared. It's just the structure has changed. And now it doesn't do as quite a good a job at telling us we're full or as filling us up. And so you definitely want to increase your fiber from your veggies. Avocado is a great source of fiber, which blows my mind, but it is. So getting that fiber up, but you need to chew it most of the time. And that right there, starting to chew my veggies and my greens over blending them away has been huge. That's huge, okay? For sure. Increasing your lean protein especially, but not that you can't have fatty, but just be careful. That's a lot of calories. Increasing your protein and getting in movement. And it's got to be, any movement is good, but walking after you eat to bring down your blood sugar level, walking after you eat as often as you possibly can, and weightlifting, resistance training 2 to 3 times a week so that your muscles are able to take in glucose better. Those are the things that reverses insulin resistance, raises your natural glp1 hormone. And I know for me, I'm so sorry this is long. I really am, but I just have so much I want to share with you because I really want to give y'all hope. I know for me, I felt like I was doing a lot of this stuff. I'm like, well, I eat lots of veggies. I'm all about that. I eat lots of veggies, and I'm getting in some protein, and I'm moving. I felt like I was doing a lot of these things, but there was just a few little tweaks I needed to make. And having those veggies and not hacking them. And what really struck me is one of my mamas that's been around for a long time in my membership group, Sophie. She is from France, and she is not an American living in Paris. She is Parisian. She is French. And she has recently shared that, like, in their country, in their culture, they don't do shakes. Like, they don't blend stuff. They don't do that. And so the food noise thing for her, she understands what we're talking about, but she don't have that, It's just very interesting that we are such a go, on the go. I need to make my shake and get out the door so I can slurp it in the car. There's a time and a place. And I do know, I'm so sorry. I do know that, but we're kind of shortchanging ourselves on the eating and the digestion process when we do that all the time. Okay. So, and I'm so sorry about my throat. I'm not sick. I've been doing so much dusting over here and cleaning out. It's killing me. Dust just makes me go, woo, so bad. But I'm getting a lot of cleaning done because I have a lot of energy, and I'm getting a lot of decluttering and cleaning done around the house. So that is a whole lot of stuff. Those are some things that you can do. I think that'd be the number one thing is I would recommend hacking less and chewing more. That's one of the food piece things that I talk about in here. And I go more into it. I would recommend that for sure, and increasing your protein. And there's a lot of talk about protein lately. Definitely if you are taking if you are taking a GLP-1 agonist drug, you definitely got to get your protein in for sure, so that you're protecting your lean muscle mass even more than a aging mama who isn't. We all need to be protecting our lean muscle mass for sure, because starting at age 30, we start losing it no matter what. So we do need to increase our protein for sure. And you start where you are on that. There's a lot of different ways to calculate that. But when we do protect our lean muscle mass, and when we do work to strengthen it, increase it through more protein and resistance training, that we are helping our bodies to reverse insulin resistance, because our muscles will be able to take in the glucose from the bloodstream and be much more receptive. That's what insulin resistance is all about. Our cells just can't take in more glucose. They're just like, we're full. We can't take any more in, girl. You're going to have to quit. That's what happens. And so then your body has to secrete more insulin to do the job that it once did with less insulin. And it keeps going and keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. Ways that we become insulin resistant. I mean, there's several, but inactivity, not moving enough, obviously being overweight, which you can do that by lots of different ways, but being overweight, not moving enough, and too many carbs. Those are the three main ways that you can become insulin resistant. And yes, you can become insulin resistant, but even when you're eating healthy food, okay? And that's frustrating. And all the things. But yes, you can eat healthy food and become insulin resistant while doing so. And again, you may not even realize you are, because you may not feel that much differently. But if you're in a place where, like, you've got 20, 30, 40 more pounds to lose and it ain't budging, and or it's going up, then something's not right, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're broke. It may mean that you need to have a different approach. It may mean that you need to make some tweaks because you're not metabolically healthy. And that was a phrase that got a lot of attention a couple of years ago. It kind of started being used a lot. If you're metabolically unhealthy, you have a low GLP-1 hormone and you're insulin resistant. Like, that's by definition. If you're metabolically healthy, then your body and your insulin is working just optimally, and your body's able to handle certain healthy foods better than someone who is struggling with those exact same foods. Now, you can become metabolically healthy. You can heal, right? And so that's the good news. But in order to become metabolically healthy and be able to eat as freely as possible, which is the ultimate goal, you may have to eat differently in the meantime, okay? You may have to eat differently in order to heal and to become metabolically healthy. And that's okay. That's okay. And that's kind of what I finally decided for myself is I got to do what I need to do to help myself become metabolically healthy, because I don't think I am. I don't think I'm, I don't think I'm way off base, I don't think I'm way off base, but I knew that as I was approaching 50, things were starting to get a little pudgy, like right there. Things were starting to get a little pudgy, and the jeans and the pants were getting tighter, and I had not really changed anything. And so I'm like, well, time to change some stuff because if it ain't working, it ain't working. And I need to figure out what I need to do for myself and then the mamas I serve. And so that's just kind of what's been going on over here. My membership mamas and I dug into a lot of this January, February, March. And that was really helpful because we were just kind of learning together what all this stuff means. We were talking about insulin resistance and GLP-1 natural hormone because most of us didn't realize it was a hormone that we have that we can improve. we started talking about all that stuff and trying things out. And, of course, sometimes it takes a little bit longer than just 2 or 3 months, but I know for myself, I started seeing improvements pretty quickly. Okay. So real quick, I'll show those books one more time and then talk to you about that course. And then I'm going to wrap it up because, oh my goodness, this was long. Okay. Feel free to ask questions and I'll do my best to answer them. I'm still learning. I really am. I'm still learning about how all these things work together and how how do we become insulin resistant even eating healthy foods, and how does it happen that our glp1 hormone gets too low even if we're eating healthy foods and all that kind of stuff. So I'm still learning, but I do have hope. I have hope for myself. I'm so excited. I haven't been this excited about my own personal journey in a long time, and I'm super excited about it. And I have hope for you too, that I think if we can get a handle on quieting that food noise, then we're going to have greater control over our food choices, over the amounts and the timing and the whats and the whens and the wherefores. I think that's a big stinking deal. And I think what you'll find, even though you may be increasing your lean protein, I think what you'll find is that by quieting your food noise, you're actually going to be decreasing your food intake and your calorie intake without even having to count it. Because I don't want to. I don't want a calorie count. I really don't. I only barely want to count my protein, but only because I've read enough and listened to Dr. Gabrielle Lyon enough to know it's really important to try to hit those targets. But what has happened here is that as I've quieted the food noise, I've naturally been able to, I don't eat as many calories as I was before because I'm not eating as often. And by often, I mean, I don't need a snack most days. Sometimes I might, if things are wonky with schedule, and if it is, it is. If I don't build my breakfast and lunch well. No, Tracy, I'm not counting my fiber. I don't want to count. Tracy's counting her fiber. I have not started counting my fiber at this time, but what I am doing is really trying to consciously increase it. If I think I have enough veggies, I add a few more, right? We probably never have enough, but I haven't started counting that yet. I'm taking baby steps a little bit, one thing at a time. Okay, so why we get sick, okay? It's all about reversing insulin resistance, okay? Thank you, Debbie. Gosh, thank you so much. It's all about reversing insulin resistance and beating inflammation because that's the root cause, okay? The Diabetes Code. Loved this book. And I loved it partly because I read it. This came before this. I just didn't know it, so I didn't read them in that order. So I read this one first. And then, and I love that book. She does have another book. Just a second. Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Oh, here it is. She does have another book, which is fine. This is her original book, The Glucose Revolution. It's fine. It's great. But if you just want the lowdown and the nitty gritty and the get to it, you just need this book. And it's easier to read. The Glucose Goddess Method. I love it. It really helps your body learn. It helps you help your body manage carbs. Yes, even the healthy ones. So much better. Especially if you're insulin resistant, but everybody. No, who wants to become insulin resistant eating healthy food? I don't. So I love that book. And then Dr. Jason Fung, a lot of the things he says in this book are echoed by the Glucose Goddess. So I love it when different people are echoing one another and you kind of hear it from multiple places. That helps me feel like it's validated and also helps me have it sink in a bit. So those are some of the books that I really love a lot. And then the food piece, I'm really not trying, I'm not trying to sell this. I mean, I do want to sell it. I want to sell it only because I want y'all to do it. The food piece, it's just a 5-lesson, it's a very, very simple 5-lesson course on my website. I'm so sorry. I am drinking my Element, which is really good. From Tracy, I'm drinking my grapefruit. But it's on the website, and it's like less than $30. I can't remember if it's 27 or 29. I think it's 27. Y'all do that stuff. I'm going to tell you, it will blow your mind. Do these tweaks, give it like maybe a month, and then you come back and you tell me, no, I'm not. Cindy, you would go there. I'm just teasing. Okay, my other favorite book, y'all, we've already talked about this a little bit. I've read it twice and I'm still not done. But I haven't actually implemented any of the fasting things like that particularly yet. I mean, I've kind of dabbled and kind of thought about it and kind of toyed with it and just things like that, but I'm not hardcore about it yet. And part of that is because I'm really focused on the glucose goddess tweaks and the food piece tweaks. Not that they don't work together, because they do. I think they do, but I've been trying to can only learn and do so much at one time. So I've been really honing in on those because I really wanted to see, if you make too many changes at one time, you don't really know which changes mattered. And so I've really wanted to focus. I focused on the glucose goddess tweaks for a while, for a couple of months, pretty good. Got those kind of like, okay, these are the ones I'm going to use as often as I can. And then I started using the quieting your food noise tweaks in March. Those have had the biggest impact for me, honestly. And there's some overlap, like I said, between them. But I really wanted to see, okay, how's that going to work? How's that going to work for me? I will say this. I had, oh my goodness, who was it? Oh, I can't remember. I mean, I do remember, but her name just left me. Somebody messaged me. I mean, I'm getting all kind of messages about flag. I'm getting all kind of messages, okay? So somebody messaged me about what my thoughts are about the fasting and things. And I'm still a learner, but I'm very open. I mean, I really am. I will say this. This book talks about fasting. This book talks about fasting. I can't reach them. I have 3 other hormone books by 3 different people. They talk about fasting. So it's kind of like, okay, guys, everybody's talking about it in some ways. These books all came out within the past 3 or 4 years. They talk about it a little differently. I will say this. This is my thoughts today on it. I think that it makes sense that if you are going to fast, it should be like a girl. I think that fasting in conjunction with your hormones and your cycle, and it doesn't matter if you're postmenopausal, she's got you covered, but I think that makes sense that women must fast differently than men. And I think that's why I've seen some people in the past who, okay, Debbie, true. I think that's why some people in the past have had initial success with intermittent fasting and then it quits working. But I think that might be because they were fasting like a guy. Guys have it so much easier. They just don't have as complex hormone stuff going on. And they don't have the fluctuations. And so, when he's talking about fasting, I mean, I'm hearing what he says, and I'm not saying he's not right. He's brilliant. He's probably right. But I do think that for any longer length of time, it makes sense that women will need to fast differently than men. That just makes perfect sense because we have to do everything differently. We have to eat differently. All the things. We got to do things differently. So I think that's number one. So I do think if you're interested in learning about fasting, I would recommend this book for sure. I will say the reason I talk about, I know, Susan, me too. Me too. The reason I do like this book anyway is because her explanation of hormones is amazing. Like, I've read the Hormone Fix, I've read the Hormone Reset Diet, and those are by two different people. I read the Hormone Shift, and I'm about to read the New Menopause by Dr. Mary Claire Haver. And so I haven't read that one yet, but I will say of the other books I've read, this one does a great job of explaining what's going on with your hormones throughout your life, throughout the month, all the things. So just for that information alone, it's a great book, especially if you have teen girls or young adult daughters. Such great information that you can share with them. We've had a lot of interesting conversations over here. So I like that. And she does talk about different ways to nourish and nurture your hormones through eating a little differently throughout the month. So that's very, very interesting. I like that a lot. I really do. I like that a lot. So we'll see. She also addresses, I know I've seen two different people have concerns about the fasting in regards to adrenal issues, cortisol issues. Amen. Because that was my experience. I decided a year and a half ago that I would test out intermittent fasting on myself and just see, because there was a lot of people even back then talking about it. There was a lot of people in the THM groups who were talking about it. Okay. And I'm like, well, I don't know, but let's see. So I did it for about 2 or 3 months, and it was terrible. It was not good for me. But here's why, partly. One, I was not fasting like a girl. I was fasting like a guy. I was just doing the same thing every day, same type of fasting every day, basically delayed eating. I didn't eat breakfast until about 10 or 11 o'clock. And I did the same thing every day for like 2-3 months. Okay. Now that might work for you. It could work for some. I'm not going to negate that. I mean, we're all different, but the problem for me especially was that I did it at a time where there were several major stressors going on over here that I had no control over. There was some really stressful stuff, and that was really upsetting and stressing me out. And so, terrible time. She talks about that. She talks about that in this book. If you've got elevated cortisol, if you've got adrenal issues, that is not the time. That is not the time to be trying to fast. I mean, just, it's not that you can't get past that and heal from that, but she does talk about that, and I totally agree. But it's also, if you've got high cortisol, this is the other thing I didn't know until later. I didn't think about it. If you've got adrenal issues currently that you have not healed from, and or you have, which if you have adrenal issues, you have high cortisol, then you don't need to be strength training or exercising hard either. Those are stressors as well. And I know that stinks, because all we've heard lately is, contend for your muscle and fight for your muscle, and you've got to protect your muscle, and you've got to be strength training, and you've got to be doing this. And that's true, but only if your body is able to recognize that it's a temporary stress, and then the stress goes away. Because when you've got elevated cortisol, high stress going on, unresolved stress, adrenal issues, your body, it's stuck in stress mode. And so your body takes in that stressor of heavy lifting and heavy exercise, and it's like, oh, well, I see the grizzly bear is going to eat me, and it's not going away. Like, it treats it the same way. And that would also be true of anything that's a stressor, like longer fasting or anything like that. So do pay attention to what's going on in your life with your cortisol, with your adrenals, all those kinds of things, and know that, it's okay to rest. It's okay to rest and heal and take that time. you don't need to be in a hurry. You can't rush it anyway. And you're only going to stress yourself out if you try to rush that healing that needs to happen from an elevated cortisol, adrenal issues, all the things. Okay. So she does talk about that. I mean, not super in depth, but she does address that. She does address, if you no longer have a cycle, she addresses all of that. But again, I liked the book just for the hormone information. It was really, really good. And then I'm about to start reading, my camera is sitting on it, so I can't show it. But I'm about to start reading The New Menopause by Dr. Mary Claire Haver. And I just briefly glanced through it this morning, and it looks like it's going to be like a menopause Bible, so to speak. That's what it looks like. It looks like it's going to be an excellent book for referencing, especially if you are interested in or wanting to do bioidentical hormone replacement, or anything like that. I mean, that's not the entire book, but that's a lot of the book is talking about, what to test for, what do you need to look for, what do you need to ask for, show your doctor this, share this with your doctor. So it looks like it's a really neat book. I haven't read it yet. If you've read it, let me know what you think about it. So yeah, you definitely and Margaret, if think about this, let's say, oh, there's a mama, I prayed for her this morning. Oh, I don't want to say her name, but you know who you are. There's a mama in the 8-week group, and she just broke both her ankles. Oh, so I'm sure, and like Mama Selena, she has shared, Coach Selena, she was in a biking accident. You have something like that happen, and obviously when you break both your ankles, or you have a terrible bike accident, and maybe you break some bones or whatever, you have to rest. You have to rest in order to be strong. Right? You don't just keep pushing through it and keep walking on those broken ankles or keep using that broken arm. You have to rest. You have to rest so that your body can heal properly and become stronger in the long run. And so think about that in regards to the cortisol and with the adrenal issues that you may be grappling with. And you probably know if you are, most likely. But you have to take some time to heal and rest out of that. And, unfortunately, sometimes we can't control the situation. So if it isn't a physical stress, but it's more of like people stress or situational stress or whatever, we can't always control that. And so we do have to work on our stress management and bringing our stress levels down and finding ways to bring peace and calm and good restful restorative sleep and all those things. And you can lean into that for a season. And put some of those other stressor things aside, like heavy lifting or heavy exercise. And, that's when you lean more into gentle walks outside if you can. Maybe some stretching and some balance exercises, something like that. You got to work with your body and give it the rest it needs. That was such a tangent. And oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed that this was an hour. I'm so sorry. I really meant to cut it in half, at least. I appreciate y'all for hanging in there. That was super long. I will save it if you caught it towards the end. It'll be here for replay, and everything. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for listening to my long ramble of a story. I just kind of wanted you to know where I was and what's been going on. And I'm not stressed anymore. I was stressed. I was for sure stressed. I was stressed and worried and trying to figure out what was going on and what did it mean for me and what did it mean for you. And I'm not stressed anymore because now I'm hopeful for me and you. Okay. All right, ladies, thank you for joining me so much. And yeah, please let me know if you were here. I could see some of the comments for sure. And I just appreciate y'all. And I just want to bring you hope. You can turn this ship around. That's what me and Debbie are doing, and it's pretty fun. It's pretty exciting. All right, thanks, ladies.